Welcome to our Findhorn Barrel, an independent podcast exploring the people and projects of the Park Eco-Village Findhorn. In each episode we meet individuals, groups and organisations shaping life in this unique corner of Scotland. From eco-builders and gardeners to artists, teachers, healers and social entrepreneurs, we'll hear their stories, what inspires them, and how they're navigating both the beauty and the challenges of living and working here. I'm your host, Alex Wright, and today I'm joined by Stewart Friendship.
Good morning, Alex.
So you lived in Cluny for many years?
I did. I lived in Cluny for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
In total. Although I did have 2 years out living in Findhorn Village when I partly ran a bed and breakfast with my wife, Kate.
How old were you when you first came to Cluny?
Oh, well, okay, so it was 30 years ago. 42. And at that point, I had been teaching in Glasgow. And in my particular school, discipline had deteriorated really badly in the last 3 years. And I had just come to realise that teenage children were just violent beings. That's what I had come to the conclusion. And just out of circumstance, I ended up walking into the park, well, actually driving into the park one day. I was up visiting a friend who lived along the coast. And I parked on the runway and I was just looking around and I saw a group of teenagers on where the volleyball court is, on the village green. And I saw another group of teenagers walking down the runway from the top. And I did not like the look of this at all. I thought, this looks like trouble. 2 groups of teenagers converging. And so I thought, I think I'll just leave. So I turned round and walked back to the car. And as I was walking back to the car, I heard shouting. And I thought, this is it. So it'll be stones and bottles next. And then, but as I got to the car, the shouting was, I love you, I love you. And I turned around and they're all hugging each other. And to me, this was like inconceivable. I could not understand this, how they were not being violent, they were actually loving each other. And I think that kind of affected me a lot. And I went back home and I thought about it and I thought, there's something going on here that I don't understand or I like. And so I made the usual moves of coming to do Experience Week and staying on to do Divas, Fairies and Angels with William Bloom and David Spangler, and that kind of sealed my fate. From then on, I went back and resigned from my school and came in a camper van and lived in the park for a year in the back of a camper van and enjoyed it. When I did eventually get to the foundation and joined up, and then we attuned the department, I was very fortunate to attune to Cluny Kitchen. And although I wasn't there the whole time of the 25 years, most of the time I was there, I was in the kitchen in some capacity, one way or another.
You'd have a lot of guests who had maybe not done cooking before, or...
Yes. Not many, but occasionally there was people who had never had any experience in a kitchen before and came in. And that's when you have to watch your language. I remember distinctly an Experience Week guest coming in and I asked her to wash the lettuce, which to me is again a normal thing to ask. But this young woman had never done anything like that before. And so when I passed the sink, she had filled it up with hot soapy water and she was washing the lettuce in hot soapy water. And so, I mean, she didn't know what I meant. It was just like washing the dishes, washing the lettuce. So things like that happened. I did get fooled. There was we had this exchange with India, with the community in India, Orville. And we had this was the first year we did this exchange, with 2 young men came from Orville, very nice young men. And well, there's 2 kind of stories with them. First of all, when they arrived in the kitchen, they were great, they're teenagers. And of course, the first thing you do in the afternoon is you do KP. You have to clean up the lunch dishes. And when I asked them to wash dishes, they looked at me as if I had horns. They just did not understand that the men in the kitchen had to do the washing up. So it's a great learning process for them. And I'll always remember this young man got me back one day. He asked me if he could cook curry. He wanted to cook curry. And so I let him do it, but it was a bit hot, really for the European taste. And I said to him, that the curry he made was really nice, but it was too hot. He said, well, can I do it again? Give me another chance. I'll do it again and I won't make it so hot this time. So I said, yeah, okay, next week, on you go, give it a go. So he cooked it all up and it was all ready to go. And I walked in the kitchen about 5 to 6. And he said, oh, Stewart, come over, I want you to taste my curry. So I went over and he had the spoon and he just put it in my mouth. And it burnt my tongue, it burnt my throat. And I was really furious because there's no way in a million years this curry could be served. And he started laughing and all the other people in the kitchen were laughing. And I thought, this is not a proper reaction. And then he said, oh, Stewart, I put chili powder on the spoon before I put the curry on. So you just basically got a spoonful of chili powder on your tongue. And actually the curry was very nice and it was probably. So yeah. So yes, people are coming, and some with experience and some with not experience. And you just have to kind of suss it out. You know, the ones with experience, it was quite easy to see quite quickly, especially because they liked showing off their knife skills. So you could tell quite, yes, okay, this person's used to it or not. Somebody else would be, not being able to use a knife properly. You could see, right, okay. So, and some people were very adventurous and wanted to do salads and that was great. Because a potato salad is a potato salad, but it's not a South American potato salad. It's nothing like a German potato salad or South African potato salad or Japanese. So I learned a huge amount from just watching all the different guests and what they brought to the kitchen. And the others who were not so confident, and the way that throughout the week they grew into their own confidence of being there and being with people and taking on things by Friday morning. Yeah.
And also the departments, they weren't just about doing the job, they were also about the process for the guests as well. Did you witness a lot of different emotional processes happening for people?
Oh yes, very much. Yeah. As you say, that's what it's all about, really. It's all about working as a team, but working as a team like the Findhorn way. Because I worked as a team in other restaurants and other kitchens. And of course, they don't sit down and check in with each other beforehand or attune to what's happening or not so supportive of each other throughout the shift. And these were all things that we kind of take for granted being in the foundation. But people coming in, experiencing it, are quite, not shock's the wrong word, but quite amazed and taken aback by it and say, yes, I'm going to go home and do this now in my life. I'm going to tune into stuff. I'm going to be more conscious of what I'm doing when I cut the vegetables. I don't know if you know the story about the Haven.
I know that there was a Channel 4 came and made a documentary, but...
So they came and made a documentary, and they chose certain people to follow over the 3 months, of which I was one. So of course they filmed me for 3 months and used about 2 minutes.
It was 2 minutes, probably.
Well, yeah. Then the whole thing starts with me saying, "Oh yes, we believe in fairies." So it goes on from there. But I'm interviewed in the kitchen one day when I'm chopping the carrots, and the interviewer says to me, "Now, Stewart, you're chopping the carrots, and these carrots are living beings. How is your conscience with chopping up the carrots? So kind of tongue-in-cheek, I just said to him, well, you know, I asked the carrots if they want to be chopped up beforehand. And if they, you know, if it's okay to use them. I don't really, but, you know, that was, I thought he was being kind of silly at the time. And that's fine. And of course, this went out, this was one of the things that went out on air, me talking about asking the carrots to be chopped. And back in these days, I used to enjoy going to a local pub on a Friday night called the Beastie, into the public bar. That was after KP, I would go up and have a pint. And I was conscious I walked in this night and the place kind of went silent. And I went over and just ordered up my pint as usual. And one of the local wags says, now Stewart, have you asked if that pint wants to be drunk tonight? And they all burst out laughing because they'd all seen it on the TV that week. So, yeah, that's just a side story. I always felt, for me, it was a place of community, just working and being in a community. I wasn't so, I didn't come for the spiritual aspect of it. I didn't come to be in a place of demonstration, although that's what it was really. So I didn't come for any of these particular things. I just came because I wanted to work and be in a community. But of course I adopted the other stuff as I went on. One of the biggest influences in my life was, as a teenager, I started having out-of-body experiences. And they were very powerful and very much with me. And so I understood within myself that there was another realm, the astral realm. And I suppose I was also looking for answers for what this was all about. I joined a group called the Gnostics, the Scottish Gnostics, and they were very much into astral travel. And so they helped me understand it and helped me practice it and encouraged me along with everybody else that was in the Gnostics at the time. And then when I came to Cluny, when I came to the foundation, the aspect of connecting with nature, co-creation and connecting with nature and talking to nature and being not in nature. I'm not very good at being in nature because mosquitoes and flies just seem to bite me. So I'm not very good at it. The idea of a picnic to me is horrific. Going sitting out and beside a river, you know, it seems so romantic, but for me it's just awful. And so I'm not good that way. But being on the astral and connecting with nature or other beings, other entities, that became very natural for me in my life. And so when I came to the foundation and realised that people were connecting with other beings, other realms, then I thought, well, that's great. That's a vehicle for me to explore. And I joined in the spiritual aspect of being in Cluny, of being the foundation, really.
So you say it was just about being community, but you were looking for something that had that dimension as well, not just a community, but...
I don't know if I was. That wasn't really part of it when I arrived. The community was the aspect of it. But I was really taken in when I found out, oh God, there's other people here that have experienced the same thing. Other people that, you know, have out-of-body experiences. Other people that can connect with other entities. So yeah, it was great. That was just a fortunate byproduct of me coming. So yeah, enjoyed that.
You were also on the management team for a while for the foundation. How was that? Because you've got a lot of pressures from people, and people have all these ideas of what management's like.
It was very tricky, I found, because I was what was called the LES manager, Living Education and Services manager. And the management group considered me to be a manager and implement the rules. Implement the rules and keep an eye on budgets, on the department budgets. But the focalisers of the departments and the people within the departments saw me much more as a shop steward, that I should be representing them on the management group.
Like a union leader?
Like a union leader. So I did find trying to balance up implementing the management structure, but being a shop steward, a union leader, the two became very difficult sometimes. Especially when there's some very strong-willed people. Well, strong-willed people wherever you go. But for me, the community seems to breed very strong-willed people. That's probably why they're there, because they've been thrown out of wherever they've been before, because of their attitudes or something like that. So I found it difficult, but I lasted 4.5 years, and that was enough.
Did Cluny more or less stay the same, or did it change with the different people that would come in and become staff members in there? What was it like living in the house?
Well, it was one of the strange things being in Cluny, or actually being in the foundation, where people were saying all the time, we're in the middle of change. And it was like every year, we're in a huge change and huge change. And at first I thought, right, yes, we must be in this big change. But after 20 years of every year saying we're in this change, it kind of became a bit repetitive. And in fact, where I was working, there was no change. We went into the kitchen, we made the food, we put the food out at the same time as we'd always done, cleared it up, and that was it. The only thing that became somewhat different was the health and safety aspect. When I first went, you weren't wearing uniforms, hats. Cleanliness was there, but none of the other things, and that gradually came in over the years of being a bit stricter with our health and safety aspect. When I first went, you had to do Experience Week if you were going to do any of the other courses within the foundation, and that was the first thing that changed. It was decided by education that you didn't need to have done Experience Week, and so there was a kind of, I don't know whether you call it slipping or not, but then people weren't so genned up, as to what was coming, because they would just come and do a programme, and that was the first experience of being in the community in the foundation. That was a change. Then another big change happened when lots of people wanted to go non-res, whereas before it was much better when there was a big group of residential people, especially in Cluny, because when you're living in and working in Cluny, you have to take lots of responsibilities, like doing KP, night porter, home care, and the group dwindled, down and down and down as more and more people went non-res, which meant it got more and more difficult for the people who stayed. And one of the key aspects of what I really enjoyed was the same pay for all. That's what you got. The manager got the same as everybody else, got the same as the people in the gardens and home care, and that changed. Differential pay came in. I don't know if that's the right word. And that it grated with me. And then we brought that in. And there was reasons to bring it in. And the reasons kind of evaporated. They didn't work. It was really brought in because we were told that good people were leaving and we needed to keep particularly good people, so we had to pay them more. And what happened was they were paid more, but they still left. So things did change. But in essence, it stayed the same. In essence, we still had fun in the kitchen and put the food out.
I think from talking to a lot of people, my own experience as well, I think a lot of people found being in the foundation or living in Cluny quite pressured Because you don't have a lot of time off, because as soon as you go out of your room, people ask you questions. How did you manage to do that for 30 years?
Because it didn't irritate me like it did a lot of people. And it's true, especially when you get into a position of focalisation, of which I was focaliser of the kitchen, and I was on the management team. So it's true that often you were stopped in the corridor. And I just found it, I accepted it as being part of community. It didn't really bother me that much. I don't know if I enjoyed it, but it didn't bother me. I never saw being in Cluny as my workplace. People often used to say, where do you work in the foundation? And I tried to explain I didn't work in the foundation. I lived in the community. The foundation was my vehicle for being there, but I didn't work. I didn't see that separate to me living there. So for me, it was just great. It suited me down to the ground, community living. I really enjoyed almost every aspect of it, even on a Saturday afternoon when often I was working by myself. So in all, I didn't find the pressure of Cluny much at all. In fact, I enjoyed the immediacy of being able to talk to somebody I wanted to talk to. For instance, the pantomimes that we're used to run in Cluny. If a kind of a problem came up, something needed to be actioned, it was so easy to sit down at the breakfast table, and invariably I would just start talking, and somebody would say, "Oh, I can do that. I'll help out there with the painting of the sets." And so there was something lovely about being in Cluny and being able to have access to all this talent all over the place, all the time.
And going on to the topic of the pantomimes, when did you first start doing that?
I came from a small village in the outskirts of Glasgow with a very active drama group, and I fell into writing a panto one year for the group and loved it, and they enjoyed the pantomime, so I did it for a few years and directed it. So when I came to Cluny, I had this background of pantomime, being in pantomime. And when you join the foundation, life stories was a big part of it. So in telling my life story or making my life box, a lot of it was around theatre. And so my name became known as a theatre person. And the pantomime started in what was called FIP 8, Foundation Year Programme 8. That was 99 to 2000. And E.T. and Elizabeth and I focalised that year. And at the end of the year, we wanted to put on some kind of show. And I was approached and said, "Well, could you write something, Stewart, for the end of year show?" I said, "Yeah, I'll write a little mini pantomime." And so I wrote one called "Bus to the Park," because it used to be a common phrase that people were driving the bus, would come into the dining room, shout, "Bus to the park," and then you would go out and get the bus. And so I wrote that "Bus to the Park" and used the people that were in the FIP year, of which Martin was one of the leading lights. And that went down very well. I mean, it was very, very basic. We didn't even have any flats or any set. Well, we had one small hump that would get swapped around between scenes. It was really funny, just done in the floor. But it was great. People enjoyed it. And so the next year I did Sleeping Beauty. The year after that, another one about Jock and the Strat Jocks. It was a crazy made-up title. Then it just went on Old Socks, Fish Cakes, and then just Viva Las Forest. So every year, well, not every year, but most years, I wrote a pantomime and directed it and put it on. And it built up over the years. We got a stage, we got set, we got lights, we got costumes from the local costume hire place. And it built up until we were about to put on the pantomime in in 2020 with 2 weeks to go, and then COVID struck. So we had to shelve it. And it was shelved for 3 years. And we eventually put it on in 2023. And so I actually thought that was probably it. That would be the last pantomime. But apparently it's not. I then got made redundant from Cluny and went to live in Forres, and didn't think there would be a vehicle for putting on another pantomime, because Cluny was it for me. I tried it 3 times in the hall during my time, and I didn't really feel it worked at all well. So I was very much a Cluny person. But the main question was, when people met me, is there going to be another pantomime? And after a few weeks of this, I thought, well, I've got one. I've got one more or less completed. We could do one, we could do it in the hall. So yeah, I finished it off. And so it will go on in November this year, 8th and 9th of November. It's called Rab McHood and his Bandy Men. I'm not sure about the bandy bit, because it was supposed to be Band O Men. One of the characters who wants to join thinks it's bandy, and he has been practicing his bandy walk, so that's one of the comic things. He comes out, he's called Will Scarlet, who's a common person in Robin Hood, and he's coming in to join, and he walks about with his bandy walk, not realising it's Band O Men. Wilkie's Wood is the place where it all takes place, which is a little wood in the park. And the band robs people, but then they don't do anything with the money. They're saving up to buy Kinloss Golf Course, and not understanding the aspect of giving money away to the poor. And there's a lot of A Midsummer Night's Dream in it, with the names changed from Oberon becomes Sloberon, Titania becomes Titiana, and Puck becomes Buckfast. So, you know.
Is Buckfast always drinking then?
Well, it's not drinking, it's just that I loved the name Buckfast. And he's going to dress up in the colours of a Buckfast bottle. So yeah, that's going on, and that's what it's all about, based on Robin Hood. But it's Rab McHood. 8th and 9th of November. I'm hugely encouraged by the amount of park people that want to be in the pantomime. So I feel as if that could be my connection, my group connection up until November, and hopefully by then I'll have made friends, I suppose. That's about it.
Is there anything you particularly miss about Cluny now that you've left?
I hugely miss the camaraderie, being able to go to breakfast or not go to breakfast, you know, being able to have intelligent, good conversations at the breakfast table, lunch table, whatever table, being with people, mingling with people, working with people, and that's, to me, was a great love of being a team in the kitchen, working together. I still go up to Cluny twice a week, just to drive up and see what's going on and being nosy, really, and pick up the post, because we still get a lot of post delivered to Cluny, so I kind of count myself as the unofficial postman, take it round to people in the park that have got post. But just hugely miss being part of a group of people.
Thank you for making the time to speak to me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It's quite interesting, actually, being asked these questions, and it brings to my forefront, you know, what's going on for me.